All right, so the third soul group is one, again, that has expanded in my understanding since it first came through. If you've heard about the 5 soul groups before, then you heard about this being emergent women. And it was very clear in the beginning that this soul group was women, and that it was the only gender-influenced soul group. I'm no longer clear that's true. I think that men and women both can be members of this soul group, as I am. And what I'm expanding my understanding into this soul group to be is greatly informed by the myth that I use to define an emergent woman. An emergent woman is a woman who has lived a particular life's journey that started out very clearly identified in her masculine. She has great drive. She has ambition. She has a sense of her own power, and it has to do with that either masculine drive that we identify kind of as the warrior or the I just forgot the word, that kind of go out into life charging. It can also have to do with another expression of the masculine that has to do with creating structures and systems and replication of things that are very specific. So when I think about that part of the masculine, it might be through like banking or law, or the legal system, or like those kinds of things that get very organizational and structural. So there are many ways to express the masculine, but this feminine being, this woman, an emergent woman, has identified in young years, often up to and into her 30s, with very much her ability to perform from that masculine self. Now, what's wrong with this in my storytelling of the past has been that I've been saying for years that the soul group was women, but that the feminine and the masculine are not gender specific. So I'm kind of laughing at myself for having gotten a little twisted up here, but it was the way I needed to get it for now, and so, or for then, and for now we can expand it. Let me just continue with the story of the emergent woman, because her story is through the mythology of a woman. But you might recognize these aspects whether you're a man or a woman. That identifying with the masculine, at some point, there has been a call to the soul. And I put my hand up like this because I often think of it as the way that when you take a nautilus shell and you place it to your ear, that it's often said that you can hear the rhythm of the ocean. Now, if you look then at the human ear, it resembles quite much the inside of a nautilus shell. There are these ancient shapes that speak to us throughout nature and science and mathematics. And when we listen in that way, it's as if the soul is calling out to life. So when our identity has been so much about the masculine, and this call from the soul ripples out into our awareness, it can be dynamic, it can be very clear and loud, it can be a soft, sensitive listening, but there's almost a prayer, perhaps not consciously a prayer, but an inaudible prayer to deeply know the mysteries of life. Now, if you've been in the identity of a masculine and this call to know the mysteries of life comes forward, there's usually, you've heard the phrase, turn a blind eye, well, turn a deaf ear. That's usually the response. And so you go through life then not listening to this call, but somehow the call is still directing you. And in that disparity of the call and the not listening to it, conflict internally starts to happen, and a dissent is inevitable. And the dissent usually looks like everything that you thought your life was built on no longer serves you. Now, not to say you surrender it all, not yet, because you are clinging to it, because you identified with it. This is the dilemma of the emergent woman. And it's the dilemma we as humankind have right now, or have had actually for quite a number of years. We have had this dilemma of having identified life through these masculine lenses, that these are how we perceive success and achievement and value in the lives we live. And they've influenced how we've created our family structures and our school systems and our financial perspectives and systems and our everything. It's how we've built our structures. And when this disparity starts to happen, both for the culture and for the individual, there's a feeling of it's getting stripped away. What once worked does not work anymore. So if this is a person, it can often look like the dissent can look like you might get sick or injured and you somehow can't heal. Or more likely that you get sick in such a way that they can't even identify what's wrong with your body, but it's not performing or functioning or acting from your wellness. It could be that your body's fine, but everything about your work life just crumbles and won't work anymore. This is how it happened for me. I smile, but it's not funny. It was terrifying and very hard when everything I had ever built in the way of my understanding and ways to create results in my businesses just stopped working. It's about 20 years ago, and it was devastating. And I did what so many of us do when we're in the descent. I actually haven't met a person yet that doesn't, is I cling to all the ways that worked before. That's how you coped. That's how you performed. It's how you identified yourself. The challenge was that, and everything that's wrong with that is that what's being called into you through this call from the soul to know the mysteries is to release what you've identified with and the ways you've performed in the world so that you can open to the richness and the depth and the expression of the feminine. Now, I'll tell this story another way when we do another episode on this, and then we'll probably host guests who have lived this, both men and women who have lived it, but we'll talk about it, how it shows up in our culture as well, because this is a huge dynamic that's happening right now. And this third soul group of releasing the masculine in the stringent ways that we've lived it, so that we may open to and embody and be guided by the depths of the feminine. And then, see, we're not making the masculine wrong, that's the other way. The feminine now welcomes the masculine in, and they're in service together to the transmissions of the depths of the mystery. From here we can create new worlds that you may have only ever imagined, and then only if you were really a courageous soul that you would have imagined them. It's a complex soul group, but it's most complex right now because we are, as a humanity, as a race, as a consciousness, an entity of consciousness, we are in the dismantling and And at the same time, like this is getting, all it was is getting dismantled, and then others of us have been delving into the mystery and into the feminine in ways that we're now becoming capable of living through. And what we haven't done yet is let this go and this rise sufficient enough that the new masculine feminine balance can come into expression. So we're living in the throes of this as I'm looking for the words to translate it to you. And it's an extraordinary thing we're a part of here.